Hey, what's up everybody? This is Toussaint Morrison. Welcome back to Social Science Club, and I wanted to start off this round of vlogs with a story that happened recently. So I am a runner. I work out, and I usually work out by running around. And I ran in several different cities over the course of 2 months. Atlanta, a suburb of Atlanta, Grand Marais, that's up north of Minnesota. Then I also went to New Orleans and then somewhere else around Louisiana, and also here in the city of Minneapolis. And running as a person of color, running as a black person, I have definitely encountered things that I don't believe other people, or should I say white runners, have encountered. In college, I was running up a hill, actually not far from here, near the University of Minnesota campus, and I was stopped by the cops. And the cops said, "Hey, what are you running for?" And I said, "I'm running to work out." And they were like, "Come over here." They pulled me over to the cop car. And I was, it's funny now, but then it was terrifying. But it's funny to look at it now because it's so ridiculous. I go up to the cop car and they say, "Well, do you have any ID?" And I'm like, "Officer, I'm out here running. I don't carry my ID while I'm running." And the officer was like, "All right, okay." And I was like, "I'm just running hills, you know, like that's all we're doing today." And the officer was like, "Okay, all right, well, have a good run." And that was that. And obviously on their end, they didn't want to look silly. For me, I didn't want to embarrass them. This was over 10 years ago. And now my patience may be a little different than it was back then, or my grace, the grace I have to give law enforcement may be a little different than it was over 10 years ago. All that being said, I was running in Minneapolis. In all these cities, I never experienced this over the span of 2 months. However, in Minneapolis, the story I wanted to tell you and the lesson at the end of it is it's not incumbent upon the person that's receiving the communication. Well, and I'll give an example. When I work with kids, we talk about spoken word and the power of spoken word. And if I run an example and say, hey, two people are walking on opposite sides of the street. Person A says to person B across the street, "Hey, you big silly butthead," and you're there. Who do you look at? Do you look at person B, who was called a big silly butthead, or do you look at person A, who said the thing? And everybody unanimously says person A. And I say, why? And they say, well, they're the source of the word. They're the source of the action. So I would, naturally go to them and be like, what's wrong with them? What happened to them? And so when we look at people saying vile or volatile or racist or misogynist or just outright just vitriolic things, go to the source. Go to the person. Ask them. And so this is a combination of that person and me running. And so I'm running in Minneapolis, and a white man is standing on the sidewalk. I think he might be like 30s, 20s. And he looks at me, and he just has this like kind of menacing glare in his eye, and I don't think anything of it. Maybe he's having a bad day. And he looks at me, and he keeps his eyes locked on me, and I'm running towards him, so I'm gonna have to run on the boulevard to get around him. And he keeps his eyes locked on me, and he then says, "Yeah, that's right. That's right. Run, black man, run." And I was like, excuse me? And what I then did afterwards was I just gave him a look. I looked at him, and all of a sudden, whatever veneer or whatever he was working with to I don't know, posture in this moment kind of went away. And I could see that he had been using some type of substance, and he seemed to be in a very emotional place. And what I gathered from that was this was a possibly drunken, scared white guy. And his escape route through not coping with whatever was going on within him was to shout some racist things at me. And he said some other choice words after, "Run, black man, run." And I ran past him, and I looked back, and he just kept murmuring things. But it got more intense every time I looked at him. And it was almost this idea like, oh, you have the audacity to look at me while I'm engaging in my racist behavior. And that was the whole point, was to hold him accountable, was to look at him and just kind of, wow, this is shameful. This is really low. I'm sure that you woke up this morning thinking that you'd probably do better today, and you're not. And hopefully tomorrow you'll do better, but right now you're not. And me looking at him was a sense of accountability. And this is gonna sound crazy to some people, but by looking at this white guy while he was saying, "Run, black man, run," was a form of protest in just saying, nah, I'm not gonna passively just let you slide with that. That's not gonna happen. And I'm also not gonna engage in any violent behavior that you're hoping that I would engage in because you prompted me with your racist behavior. And when you don't play into what said person is trying to get you to play into, there's a frustration on that end. But then when you hold them accountable in a way that's peaceful and not demanding anything of them, and actually just maintaining a healthy boundary, they then are forced to kind of reckon with themselves and the crappy behavior that they're putting out. And so when I go back to the spoken word, the power of the spoken word, you looked at this gentleman and it was on him. It wasn't really on anybody else, it was on him. And I wasn't gonna take any onus for him. I wasn't gonna give him credit for anything or any excuses for anything. It was just, wow, you're in a place right now. And nobody's gonna come at you, nobody's gonna try to hurt you or anything like that. We're just gonna let you be with your drunken racist behavior. And so I was running the same route again, and I saw this guy, and he's sitting in his yard, and I just kind of give him a look like, we gonna do this again today? Like, are you all right? And I look at him, and he immediately is like, oh, really? Really? And I just go about my run. Now, again, this is me prompting nothing. And there is a deeper thing going on here in Minnesota, and I think in all places in the US and around the world. Being black in a white space is an act of protest. It is an act of protest seen just in cultures that have been legacied by white supremacy. So when you are black or a person of color in a white space, that is an act of protest just as it is, hands down. And this gentleman definitely reacted to that in a certain way with whatever substances were going on in his body and whatever he was going through with that day. And at the core of it was a drunken, scared guy, and not dealing with whatever's going on at the core. But on the external was him expressing racist and substance-addled behavior. So with that being said, my reaction or my response to it wasn't to say anything to him or, try to play into whatever he's trying to put out there. But the idea was, we're not going to play this, and I'm going to look at you like the silly person that you're being right now. And then this also plays into running while black. It happens all the time, and cops will look at folks funny. I mean, the story of Ahmaud Arbery, look no further than that. Just by being black and running or moving fast through a white space or white neighborhood, you will gain attention. And I think you can answer some questions as to why you can answer that. But for me, that's my experience. And I continue to run the route, and that's just the way things are gonna be, because I think running is good for you. And I also think looking people dead in their eye when they go about their silly, racially derived and maybe substance-addled behavior is just one way of holding them accountable. And the biggest part to this is the dangers and implications of running while black, the connotations of that, and then also when you engage with people that are just going to spew out racist language, how to go about that. And the combination of all that together is essentially taking a risk every time you go for a run while black. And that is one of the things I experienced in my life. And I'm sure a lot of people experience it with women running, or just anybody running in situations where there is a present danger or a risk to it. And that's one story about that. Hope you enjoyed it. If you found this channel or this story or this video of use or of value, please click subscribe or like. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next Social Science Club. Thank you so much for watching.